The tires of my old pickup crunched over the gravel as I drove down Moonridge Road, a forgotten stretch tucked deep in the Midwest farmland. Local rumors whispered of a town called Hollow Creek, a place that appeared only under the full moon, yet no map had ever recorded it clearly. I had laughed at the stories, until tonight. The moon hung low, pale and swollen, spilling silver across endless cornfields. Fog began curling over the stalks, thick and wet, clinging to the truck's wheels, as if trying to slow me down. My headlights pierced the mist, revealing shadows that moved at the edge of vision, shapes too tall and wrong to be trees. And then I saw it. A crooked, wooden sign rose out of the haze. Hollow Creek. The paint was faded, peeling like scabbed-over skin, but the letters were unmistakable. Beyond it, faint outlines of buildings began to materialize, bathed in moonlight, storefronts sagging, houses with warped roofs, chimneys that looked like blackened teeth. Street lamps flickered on as I drove closer, their light weak but insistent. The town was real. A strange silence settled over Hollow Creek, heavier than night. No crickets, no wind, no distant sounds of life, only the hum of my engine and the crunch of gravel beneath my tires. And yet, something felt alive. Shapes in the shadows shifted when I blinked, never in the same place twice. I parked near the center of what appeared to be the main street. A cold breeze whispered through the empty buildings, carrying faint murmurs that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. I stepped out of the truck, my boots sinking slightly into the dust of a street that hadn't been walked in decades. From the corner of my eye, I saw it. A figure, a small girl, her dress torn and stained, standing in the middle of the road. She didn't move, didn't blink, but when our eyes met, she tilted her head just slightly, beckoning me forward. Some instinct told me to run, but another, darker curiosity urged me onward. Hollow Creek had awakened, and somehow it had been waiting for me. I took a cautious step toward the girl. Her dress fluttered despite the stillness of the air, and when I opened my mouth to speak, no words came out. She raised a small, pale hand and pointed down a street lined with shuttered storefronts. I followed, my heartbeat pounding louder than the silent town around me. The closer I got, the more I noticed them people. They stood in windows, on doorsteps, frozen mid-motion. A man appeared to be tipping his hat. A woman clutched a basket of unseen flowers. A child reached for a swing that no longer hung in the empty yard. But their faces were hollow, their eyes black voids reflecting nothing. I called out, but my voice seemed to vanish into the fog. The figures did not respond, yet their mouths moved in eerie synchrony, whispering words I could not hear. I leaned closer to one man in a cracked window, hoping for some clarity, and felt an icy draft curl around my neck. Suddenly, the girl's lips moved, forming a single word: run. Her expression twisted into something I couldn't read: fear, warning, or accusation. I turned instinctively, and the street behind me had shifted. The truck was gone, replaced by more buildings, more empty eyes staring from shadows that should not exist. A low creaking sound came from above, I looked up to see a rickety sign swinging in the moonlight. "Welcome to Hollow Creek." The letters seemed to pulse, as if alive, and a whisper threaded through the silence. "You shouldn't be here." I felt it then. The sensation of being watched, not just by the hollow figures, but by the town itself. The walls, the streets, even the fog seemed intent on guiding me somewhere I didn't want to go. And yet, the girl stayed in the middle of the street, her hand pointing, urging me forward. Something deep inside me told me there was no turning back now. I followed the girl's silent guidance down the winding street, my footsteps crunching over broken glass and scattered debris. The hollow figures remained in their places, unmoving, watching, their black eyes tracking every motion. The farther I walked, the more the town seemed to shift around me. Streets stretching and bending as if the moonlight itself were reshaping Hollow Creek. At the heart of the town square loomed a bell tower, its timbers warped and rotting, yet somehow still upright. The bronze bell swayed lazily, creaking, though no wind disturbed it. A sense of dread crawled up my spine. I knew instinctively that whatever power held this town here had its center in that tower. Compelled, I climbed the narrow, splintered stairs, each step groaning under my weight. Shadows clung to the walls, flickering in the corners of my vision. When I reached the top, the town sprawled beneath me like a model in moonlight, streets pulsing faintly as though the town itself had a heartbeat. From the shadow of the belfry, something stirred. A hand, pale, skeletal, cold, brushed my shoulder. I spun around. Nothing. The air was still. Only the bell swayed, and I could have sworn I heard a faint, guttural laugh coming from its hollow depths. Then I noticed movement across the rooftops. Dark figures, more human than the hollow townspeople, but twisted, misshapen, crawled along beams and ledges, disappearing when I blinked. My chest tightened. The girl was gone, replaced by a deep, humming presence that vibrated through my bones. A voice, low and metallic, whispered from everywhere and nowhere, "You shouldn't have come." My skin prickled as the town seemed to watch me from every direction, its silent streets waiting to see what I would do next. I didn't know how, but I sensed that the bell tower was not just a building, it was a threshold, and crossing it would mean stepping further into Hollow Creek than anyone had survived before. I descended the bell tower, my legs trembling, heart hammering against my ribs. The town below had shifted again. The street I had climbed no longer existed. In its place stretched a marketplace frozen in decay. Empty stalls sagged under the weight of unseen produce. Wooden crates split open to reveal rotten fruits and vegetables that smelled fresh in the moonlight. The silence was deceptive. Faint footsteps echoed behind me, quick and irregular. I spun around, nothing. When I turned back, I glimpsed shadows moving between the stalls, darting just out of reach. The air carried a strange mixture of scents, iron, smoke, and something sweet like overripe fruit. Then I heard it. Voices, soft but insistent, murmuring my name. I could not tell from where they came. The whispers moved, circling, coming from the stalls, from the streets, from inside my own head. The ground beneath my feet shivered as though the marketplace itself were alive, adjusting, pushing me forward. A narrow path of shattered glass and scattered bones stretched before me, leading deeper into the town. Each step I took produced a loud clatter, yet no figure emerged to confront me. I realized with mounting horror that Hollow Creek was no ordinary ghost town. It was a trap, a predator that consumed the unwary, reshaping itself to draw me further inside. A sudden chill ran down my spine. From the shadows between the stalls, a pair of glowing eyes appeared, unblinking. They belonged to no human creature I had ever seen, and their gaze bored into me with intent. I had the fleeting thought that this town did not just watch, it hunts. I swallowed hard and pressed forward, compelled by curiosity and terror alike, unaware that every step pulled me closer to something ancient and unforgiving. The path of shattered glass led me to a mansion that shouldn't have been there. Its walls were covered in cracked, opaque mirrors that reflected the moonlight in fractured patterns, casting the street in jagged, shifting shadows. I hesitated at the entrance, but an unseen force drew me inside. The moment I stepped into the house, the mirrors multiplied. Every reflection was me, but wrong. Twisted versions, screaming, eyes hollow or bleeding, faces contorted in fear or rage. One reflection stepped forward independently, grinning as it whispered, "You shouldn't have come." I stumbled backward, tripping over a torn rug that seemed to writhe beneath my feet. The walls began to bleed, black ichor spreading slowly, oozing from cracks and seams. The air thickened with the scent of decay and iron, and the mirrors no longer reflected the room, they reflected my memories, intimate and shameful. Every failure, every lie, every regret screamed silently in the glass, twisting the mansion into a living gallery of my own sins. I tried to look away, but the mirrors followed me. My own reflection reached through, fingers brushing my chest with a coldness that burned. I felt my heart beat slow as panic clawed at my mind. The mansion itself seemed to pulse in rhythm with my fear. Walls breathing, floors shifting, staircases appearing where none had existed before. And then, from somewhere behind me, a whisper, soft and deliberate, "Stay. Forever." I ran. I burst from the house of mirrors into a street unlike any I had walked before. Darkness hung thick and heavy, more solid than air, swallowing the moonlight and my flashlight's beam alike. Every step forward felt like wading through tar. My shadow stretched and twisted on the pavement, then vanished entirely. Shapes lurked in the corners, grotesque and unnatural. They slithered along walls and across rooftops, never fully forming, yet always watching. Every time I tried to look away, the darkness pulsed, drawing my gaze back, bending the street to force me onward. A child's laughter rang out somewhere above a soft, lilting sound that shifted into a high-pitched scream. The air felt alive, pressing against my chest, forcing shallow breaths. I stumbled over the uneven cobblestones and realized the street itself was changing. Doors melting into walls, windows stretching into jagged voids. I wanted to run, but my legs refused to obey. The town's streets were no longer paths, they were corridors, snares, and I was the prey. From the fog, whispers rose, overlapping voices chanting my name, recounting fears I had buried long ago. Through the oppressive darkness, A faint glow appeared ahead, a carnival ground. Its rusted Ferris wheel turned slowly despite missing gears, lights flickering in erratic bursts. Relief surged. Perhaps there, at least, I could find a way out. I stepped forward, unaware that Hollow Creek's hunger had already marked me as its next permanent resident. The carnival emerged from the fog like a mirage, rusted and decayed, yet alive with a dreadful energy. The Ferris wheel loomed above everything, its skeletal frame creaking and groaning, turning slowly though many of its cars were missing. The faint, warped strains of music floated through the mist, distorted and discordant, as if the instruments themselves were dying. I approached the wheel, but the ground beneath me trembled. The fog thickened, clinging to my legs, pulling at me. An empty ride car swayed gently, inviting me. Against my better judgment, I climbed inside, gripping the cold metal sides. The car jerked upward, then higher, revealing the full extent of the carnival. Below, countless shadowy figures wandered aimlessly among broken booths and toppled rides. Their faces were blank, unformed, yet somehow aware of me. One turned abruptly, its head snapping in my direction with unnatural speed, eyes wide and unblinking. I froze, heart hammering. A whisper cut through the fog. "You are next." The car swung violently, and I was thrown into a pit of dense fog below. I landed hard, the world spinning. Around me, the carnival seemed endless, expanding in impossible directions. Every turn revealed new horrors. Rides bending at impossible angles, shadows moving in defiance of light. Figures that were not human but mimicked humanity with grotesque precision. The Ferris wheel's bell a distorted echo of joy and terror tolling somewhere in the distance. I realized then that the carnival was a trap, a lure to pull the living into Hollow Creek's web, to merge them into the town's endless nightmare. I scrambled to my feet, shivering, every sense alert. Somewhere deeper, beyond the fog and shadows, a new path awaited, one that would lead me further into the town's terrible secrets. I stumbled through the fog, guided by a faint silver glow, until I reached the edge of a river that shouldn't have been there. Its waters shimmered unnaturally, reflecting the full moon in ripples that moved against the current. As I peered closer, I realized the surface mirrored not just the town, but my deepest fears, twisting them into grotesque images, faces of those I had wronged, failures I had buried, memories I could never escape. A hand broke the water's surface, pale and skeletal, reaching for me. I jerked back, but the river expanded, swallowing the streets I had just crossed. Hollow Creek itself seemed to float on its surface, buildings and streets distorted in the silver waters, and the hollow townspeople wandering aimlessly, their blank eyes fixed on me. The river whispered, 1,000 voices layered together, recounting secrets I had never told. "You are exposed. You belong here." Panic gripped me. I tried to turn, to find another street, but the town had shifted again. Every alley and lane led back to the riverbank. A reflection leapt from the water, a perfect replica of me, but with eyes empty as the hollow figures. It raised its hand, beckoning. The river surged toward me, cold and alive, its current dragging at my boots, threatening to pull me under. I staggered backward, my chest tight, the whispers growing louder, chanting, accusing, mocking. I realized with a sinking terror that the river was not water, it was time and memory, preserved and twisted, holding every soul lost to Hollow Creek, all suspended in an endless, reflective prison. And now it was reaching for me. I ran, desperate, away from the river, away from the reflections that demanded my soul, toward the next impossible structure looming in the fog. A church whose steeple cut through the silver moonlight like a shard of bone. I stumbled toward the church, its steeple piercing the fog like a jagged finger clawing at the sky. The doors hung open, warped and blackened, as if they had not been used in centuries. A cold wind howled from within, carrying whispers that promised both salvation and oblivion. Inside, the pews were crawling with shadows, human in shape but wrong in every detail. Faces melted into one another, mouths stretching impossibly wide in silent screams. The walls dripped with dark moisture, and the air was thick, almost solid, pressing against my lungs. I could barely draw breath. At the altar, a figure shrouded in tattered black robes raised a hand. Its presence radiated an authority older than time, and the temperature plummeted, freezing my skin to ice. From the choir loft, hundreds of voices erupted in a cacophony, chanting in a language I could not understand but felt in the marrow of my bones. The shadows in the pews turned their attention toward me, rising slowly, swaying with a dreadful rhythm. Their hollow eyes locked on mine, accusatory, imploring, and hungry. My legs buckled. I fell to the cold stone floor as the robed figure approached, each step silent but inevitable. The voices grew louder, calling my name, recounting every sin, every secret I had thought buried. I wanted to scream, to flee, but my voice was trapped, my body frozen. The figure raised its hand higher, and the shadows leaned forward as if ready to devour me whole. I understood then that Hollow Creek was not merely a town, it was a sentient prison, and I had walked directly into its heart. The robed figure's hand descended, icy and unyielding. The shadows surged, enveloping me from all sides. My vision blurred, streets and fog, river and carnival, all merging into one endless void. The hollow figures, the Ferris wheel, the bell tower, they all became part of a single, living nightmare. And I was at its center. Moonlight streaked across the town one final time, illuminating every warped building and twisted face. The voices, chanting my name, crescendoed into a deafening roar, then fell silent, as if the world itself held its breath. I felt myself pulled, body and mind dissolving, becoming something less than human, yet part of Hollow Creek's eternal essence. Time fractured. One moment I was standing, the next I was floating through the streets I had walked, my own face among the hollow, unblinking eyes of the town's inhabitants. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped. I tried to move, but my limbs were nothing but shadows. I had become another whisper, another reflection, trapped forever. When dawn arrived, Moonridge Road was empty once more. The gravel lay undisturbed, the cornfields swaying gently in the wind. Locals would swear Hollow Creek was gone, a forgotten tale of superstition. But every full moon, faint silhouettes appear under the silver glow, wandering the streets, whispering warnings to the next unsuspecting traveler. And somewhere in the fog, among the shadows, one figure knew, but familiar moves silently, waiting for the next curious soul to follow the moonlit path into Hollow Creek.